Welcome back to the Washington Reporter podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Wohl. Ernie Veritimos here, as always. Ernie, what's going on?
I'm speechless. Just totally speechless. Ocasio-Cortez has been risen to the heights. I mean, no one can explain. They are 100% behind this woman. The left, the Dems, are moving even further to the left.
Right. No, they're all in.
How is it possible?
No, there's no doubt. For a while there, we were kind of thinking, okay, are they going to put her down? Are they going to shelve her? Is this just a little 2-week little presser they're doing? No. They're all in for.
Oh, and they're taking that parody piece that was done on her, and they're going apoplectic over that. You know, they're calling it the meanest, most hideous thing anybody could ever do to another person. When their late night TV shows, that's all they do. Every single night, parodies and satire. Actually, it's not even parodies and satire. It's just outright bashing Trump.
Right. I mean, it'll be a thing of Trump and Putin, Putin walking Trump like he's a dog. That's every night on late night television. That's fine. Yeah, Imagine if we had a meme of Fidel Castro walking Ocasio-Cortez like a dog. I think that they'd have a problem with that. But, wow. we're a little more classy than that. Well, a lot going on.
That's a good one. I think I'm going to create that meme.
I think it's time. That might even be the channel artwork now that I think about it. Just take the little one, switch Castro and switch Trump, Putin, could be good. Well, a lot going on. I guess I want to start with Iran tonight. Trump says he's ready to meet with Iran with no preconditions. Here's the clip.
You spoke a bit about Iran today and your discussions, and I'm wondering if you could tell us what you think Iran needs to do to reduce some of the tensions. And you've met with the leaders of North Korea and Russia. Are you prepared also, are you willing to meet with President Rouhani, and under what conditions? And have there been any preliminary discussions about something like that?
I'll meet with anybody. I believe in meeting. The Prime Minister said it better than anybody can say it. Speaking to other people, especially when you're talking about potentials of war and death and famine and lots of other things. You meet. There's nothing wrong with meeting. We met, as you know, with Chairman Kim, and you haven't had a missile fired off in 9 months. We got our prisoners back. So many things have happened so positive. But meeting with people, I had a great meeting, in my opinion. Of course, the fake news didn't cover it that way, but I had a great meeting with President Putin of Russia. I think it was a great meeting in terms of the future, in terms of safety and economic development and protecting Israel and protecting everybody. I thought it was a great meeting. Great meeting with NATO. I just explained NATO. Hundreds of billions of dollars more money will be paid into NATO, the coffers of NATO, and much already has. So I believe in meeting. I would certainly meet with Iran if they wanted to meet. I don't know that they're ready yet. They're having a hard time right now. But I ended the Iran deal. It was a ridiculous deal. I do believe that they will probably end up wanting to meet, and I'm ready to meet anytime they want to. And I don't do that from strength or from weakness. I think it's an appropriate thing to do. If we could work something out that's meaningful, not the waste of paper that the other deal was, I would certainly be willing to meet.
Do you have preconditions for that meeting?
No preconditions, no. They want to meet, I'll meet. Anytime they want. Anytime they want. It's good for the country, good for them, good for us, and good for the world. No preconditions.
Treasonous!
If they want to meet, I'll meet.
Treason! He's colluding! He's colluding! Collusion. I smell collusion.
He's selling us out. He's giving away everything. He's giving it everything to them.
Just wait for Morning Joe tomorrow. I mean, it's just going to be... Are you ready for this? And they're just going to forget about, that time when Obama sent pallets of cash, $150 billion worth, and sent Iran not just their frozen assets back, but their frozen assets with 40 years of compounded interest at 20% a year.
Well, what they're going to say, though, is that this is way worse than giving them $250 billion in cash. Right.
Well, what we're seeing here with Trump is a difference between a business person and a lifetime politician. In the world of politics, it's this whole thing of, well, we've got to set all kinds of preconditions and have all kinds of declarations, and only when the preconditions have been met can we then go to talk about meeting them. It's just a bizarre sort of process. And look,
it's all about the dance. It's not about what happens after the dance.
And look where it's gotten us. It hasn't gotten us anywhere. It's been a mess.
The point is that they don't really want to do anything. They just want the optics. They want to do the dance.
Right. I thought Democrats were supposed to be the world peace ones. I thought they were the ones that, stick flowers in the barrels of National Guardsmen's rifles. Not anymore. It seems like they're the war hawks now. The Democrats want war more than anyone else. It's like war with Russia. They want to go to war with everyone. It seems like they are the war hawks now.
That'd be an interesting meeting for sure.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's
I don't see any reason why not. It's kind of interesting that he said he's not doing it from a stance of power, though. You know that Trump is going. Everything that he does is about manipulating the other party and keeping them off balance and so forth.
Right.
While giving the sort of pretense that he's giving away the farm.
Right. That's how he does it every time. He says the meeting with Putin went well. He's a very nice guy. He's great. In the background, he's bleeding their gas sales to Germany and shutting that down. This is how he does business. It works out very well. The world is more peaceful than ever. The world is more prosperous than ever. But if you listen to the Democrats, you'd think that the world is falling apart. You'd think that the stock market's down. You'd think that we're in a depression. You'd think that we're at World War III or that it's on our doorstep. But none of that's happening. It's not going on. And, if people consume this kind of fake news media constantly, you meet these people from time to time. And, you can tell they're visibly stressed out because they watch CNN all day, they watch MSNBC all day, and they just get lied to. Or we're on the doorstep of World War III. I'd feel the same way. If I actually believed that we were on the doorstep of World War III and that we had a president who had sold us out to Russia and all these things that they spew all day long in these networks, I'd be pretty stressed out myself if I didn't have any critical thinking skills, essentially, is what I'm saying in a roundabout way. So it should be interesting. We'll see what happens if Iran wants to meet. They, although didn't take kindly to President Trump's invitation, they've come out now and said that they have no plans of meeting with the U.S. dictator, Donald Trump.
America.
And death to America, and they plan to continue their lawsuit over sanctions against the United States of America. Maybe the Knights, if they really want to have the best luck possible, they'll go to either a court in Hawaii to follow that lawsuit, or maybe the Ninth Circuit, and then they'd be in great shape because they would rule in favor of Iran, I'm sure.
Right. Well, I wonder how the Iranian people, the ones that are on the verge of a coup on the Iranian government, how they're going to take this stance from Trump now, and then the flat out rejection from these leaders.
Well, like you said, it's the divergence of what's happening in the foreground and what's happening in the background. I think that he's working them in a good way because they're listening to Trump and they're saying, hey, he wants peace. And then they listen to their leader and he starts spewing death to America. And they're thinking, hey, he's going to get us nuked. He's going to get us bombed into the smithereens, like Saddam got his people bombed into smithereens. Probably a bad idea. Let's put some pressure on this guy to go to the table if we can't get rid of him completely. Right. I think that's kind of the thinking, but, it's anyone's guess. What do I know? I want to talk about this James Gunn incident and the media reaction to this. Of course, James Gunn is the Guardians of the Galaxy director.
Which is a pretty good movie, by the way.
That's what I hear. I haven't seen it, but I hear it's a good movie.
It's funny. It's good.
It's a blockbuster, out of the park.
I wouldn't call it a blockbuster.
I thought it did pretty well.
It was funny. It was entertaining.
It did very well, though, didn't it? I mean, as far as the numbers.
And yeah, absolutely. It's one of those movies where you could probably turn it into a sequel and a sequel.
And it's one of those movies that little kids watch 5 and 6 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Anyway, this guy directed that movie. He's a Hollywood bigwig, insider, you name it. And Mike Cernovich, who's a friend of the program, went through his Twitter and found thousands of tweets dating back to 2008 where he was just celebrating pedophilia, saying how he'd love to just get together with some little kids. And I can't even repeat what he said. You can look at the tweets if you want to. They're just so lurid.
Well, he claims that they're all a joke.
They're all a joke, right? They're all a joke because this is
10,000 jokes.
This is a laughing matter. It's just, it's very funny. And Mike Cernovich just wrote an article. It wasn't even really a deep dive. I mean, it wasn't like he did some kind of hidden camera thing where journalists might say, ooh, that's not real journalism. It's too aggressive, like CNN does to Project Veritas. It's not like that. This is different. He looked at the guy's own Twitter feed, he pulled together the tweets, and he put them in an article and said, look, the guy's got thousands of pedophilia tweets. Well, the guy was promptly fired from, I guess, the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And the media is, so altruistic, so great, so moral that they're attacking the real bad guy here, which is, of course, Mike Cernovich. They're attacking him like we've never seen before. And NBC News has now released a special about how bad it is what Mike Cernovich did. Just taking the guy's own tweets, copying them, pasting them, bringing attention to him.
Well, look at everything on balance here. The Dems still think Roman Polanski is a hero, and Meryl Streep thinks that he's God. I mean, here is a convicted pedophile, and they worship the guy. But they worship pedophilia.
Right. They do, and they circle the wagons to protect these guys when they're outed. And you can argue with me about that, but just listen to this clip, and then you can't argue anymore. This is NBC defending James Gunn.
Offended by Gunn's tweets, you are completely justified in doing so. They are gross tweets, but you should also recognize where those instances of outrage are coming from and who is perpetuating them.
What difference does that make?
Yeah. What difference
does it make who points them out?
Wait a second.
Oh, because it came from Mike Cernovich? Therefore, his argument is completely nullified.
And you listen to that music in the background, too, and it goes through the whole thing. And they say...
Was that Disney music?
I don't know. It must be.
So on July 20th, a series of old tweets from writer-director James Gunn, who's most known for writing and directing the Guardians of the Galaxy films, were resurfaced by Mike Cernovich, who's a bit of an alt-right provocateur. And as a result, Disney and
Alt-right, yes.
Marvel decided to fire James Gunn from the third Guardians movie. We're at this really interesting place now where tweets can be weaponized against us for very explicitly political purposes.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. So their own tweets are weaponized against them. They're the ones that created the tweets.
Right.
They're the ones that were making these outrageous, this guy anyways, outrageous tweets about this just sick
thousands of them. Not one tweet.
No,
maybe
10, I think 10,000.
10,000 pedophilia tweets. And the guy says they're gross and you're right to be outraged, but now he says, no, you can't be.
The pernicious thing about the way the alt-right used Gunn's tweets to get him fired and exact this kind of punitive measure against somebody.
Punitive for what? What were they angry at James Gunn about before this?
On what world is Cernovich an alt-right?
I guess all he tweets about is ethno-nationalism, right? No.
Who, by all accounts, did not exhibit that behavior in the future and had worked to rectify it, is really troubling. For the most part, I think you could argue...
Oh, he worked to rectify his pedophilia tweets. Okay.
No, well, what that means is that he was trying to delete them.
Right, he was trying to delete them at breakneck speeds.
That's what they mean by rectify.
Yeah. That on the left, it is at least born of a desire to improve the discourse and the acceptability of certain people, certain marginalized groups.
Oh, certain marginalized groups like pedophiles? I mean, they're defending pedophiles.
Right.
Certain marginalized groups, just people who like to have sex with little kids.
And diminishing hate speech, whereas with Cernovich and people on the alt-right, they take those same principles and act on them in bad faith. It's not really born of any earnest desire to bring down bad people or make people who say problematic things accountable for their actions. It's a pure calculation, and they count on people being upset to do that. And it's all part of this underlying strategy by the alt-right to confirm their idea. It's a very nihilistic idea that we don't actually believe that the world can be a better place. That
what in the world is this guy talking about? I mean, I'm sorry. What in the world is this? What does exposing pedophiles have to do with a belief or non-belief that the world can be a better place? Isn't exposing pedophiles the right thing to do, and that's it? And end of conversation?
No, you see, they're just engaging in age play. They have a pansexual look at the world.
Oh, I see. And you should see the guy who's speaking here, folks. I know it's just audio, but check out this creep. Link will be in the show notes. I mean, oof, you want to see the guy who's narrating this. The world is a dark, cynical place, and everyone secretly has all of these dark impulses, and that to say... No, not everyone. You Hollywood pedophile creeps. That's who.
Otherwise is to position yourself as above someone else. They call it virtue signaling.
Oh, we're the ones who virtue signal. I got it. We're the ones who are virtue signaling constantly, Ernie. I got it. Okay. I mean, what is this?
I think the most important tell in figuring out whether or not something is bogus or not bogus is seeing whether the people who are actually signal boosting these problematic things are actually upset by them, or if they're just doing it to weaponize the outrage of those who are upset by it. So I think the most important thing we need to do is take a step back, think about why we're outraged at this particular thing, and making sure we're doing it for the right reasons and not lending ammo to somebody who wants to use our own outrage against us.
What in the world is this guy talking about? I mean, I'm sorry. This is the kind of abstract BS.
But do you know what will happen with someone like this if he's ever thrown into jail? What the other inmates will do to him?
Oh, we don't even have to go there, but yeah.
I think that, virtue signaling or pointing them out or dragging them out to the street and beating them to hell is probably a better treatment that they'll get than if they ever go to jail.
Right. I mean, this is just remarkable. And who made that clip we just played? This is NBC News. They're playing this on prime time tonight. I mean, this is where these people are at. They want to circle the wagons and defend pedophiles because at the top of Hollywood and at the top of the Democrat Party elite, these people are all in on it. I mean, you see these cardinals that were just busted for basically trafficking kids in cages overseas back and forth and had to resign from the church, still haven't been arrested. Well, there's tons of pictures of Hillary Clinton hanging out with these guys, shaking their hand. It's all a big club. They're all in on it. And it's been something that the alt-right has been talking about. It's been something that a lot of people have been talking about. I don't know what this even has to do with the alt-right. I just don't know where they get this. Where do they get alt-right from this? What does this even have to do with alt-right?
It's a generic term like Nazi.
Right, Nazi, alt-right, racist, white nationalist. Just kind of throw it in there, label, make it happen. That's the way they like to do this. But anyway, I guess we'll keep following it. They're dead set. They have petitions online to get James Gunn his job back, and they have
Save the pedophile.
Save the pedophile. And they have GoFundMes to just give him money. As if he doesn't have enough money, you should send off some money to him as a gift.
Fund the pedophile.
This is the left, folks. This is the left. They are, in many cases, extreme sexual deviants. And this is the kind of stuff that they're into, that they celebrate, and we can dance around it. We can pretend it's not true, but time after time after time after time, it all comes out, and everything we feared was true, and it was much worse. It was much worse. But I guess the only thing, Ernie, that could be a lot worse than a bunch of pedophiles running Hollywood and making movies for kids would be universal health care, at least according to a new study that I read in Bloomberg today. You see this? I mean, they estimate now, independent kind of study at the center, at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University in Virginia, saying that even if you doubled the income tax, the United States would lose $32.6 trillion over 10 years if we went to universal single-payer healthcare.
32.6 trillion. What is the world net GDP? Something like, 104 trillion or something like that?
Yeah, it's something in that neighborhood. I mean, to give you guys an idea of, it's 107, I guess now. To give you an idea of just how much money that is, because maybe some people don't have any clue, we'd be talking about liquidating the entire United States, selling off everything, okay? Every house, every man, every woman, every child. The whole GDP, plus the GDP of China, plus the GDP of France, plus the GDP of Canada, plus the GDP of Germany, just to pay for universal health care for 10 years. But Democrats love this. This is just great.
Oh, the Dream Girl says Medicare for free for everybody.
Right, free health care. I wonder, what's the obsession with health care with young people, too? What do they need all this health care for? I wonder this, too. What are young people, because this is a young person's thing. It's not really old people that are calling for universal health care. You'd think if anybody was going to be calling for free health care, it'd be them, because presumably they're the ones that use health care more. But it's not them. It's young people. And I just sort of wonder, what are their massive healthcare expenses? They go and get a physical once a year. It's a $25 copay. They need a couple of prescription drugs for their allergies. I mean, what's this big thing? Why are so many young people? Why do they think they need free healthcare? It's just bizarre to me. My healthcare expenses are next to zero.
Look, it's kind of a circle jerk. What they've done is they've totally poisoned the well with healthcare and insurance companies, and they've, through government regulation and through creating borders at states and limiting competition and tort law and all this other stuff, has just driven the price of healthcare until it is just untenable. And so that, faced with that new reality, nobody can afford health care. So this is the only way that they can afford it, is to have, give it to them for free.
And as we were talking about earlier, health insurance as an idea was never intended to be to pay for your contact lenses or your teeth cleaning. It was never meant to be a
payment plan for your health insurance.
No, it wasn't. It was meant for, oops, you got in a car accident, you broke 3 vertebrae, bills $20,000, $30,000, $40,000.
Catastrophic insurance.
Catastrophic insurance. Just like with your house, you've got homeowners insurance. It doesn't cover putting in flowers in the backyard. You've got car insurance. It doesn't pay for new tires or air fresheners.
Yeah, there's no reason why you can't just pay as you go for most people. I mean, I go to the doctor, maybe 3-4 times a year. Sometimes something, I might have to get a blood test or something going on. If I just paid just for those office visits, that would be approximately what I would pay for 1 month of premiums.
Right. No, you really add it up, right? Because you're talking about $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 a month for one person to have insurance these days. It's a big scam, is what it is. We can just call it what it is. It's a scam. And, Obamacare was written by the insurance companies, although they ultimately ended up getting screwed by a couple of changes that were made to the law. And it's a big joke. And so the idea is, well, Ernie does the math. He decides it doesn't make any sense for him to buy insurance. Too bad. Obamacare says he has to. Of course, President Trump has repealed the individual mandate. The first day he got into office, he wrote an executive order ordering the IRS not to charge people the fines. They did it anyway, and people had to be removed. But this is a just persisting problem, and it seems like people on both sides of the aisle are just afraid of change. People here are kind of in their ways. I talk to Republicans too, and they're like, "Wow, I can't take away my Medicare." It's like, well, what if we just did it differently? Well, we don't know what would happen. Well, that's the point. We don't know what would happen. That's like saying,
well, we do know what would happen. Just go back to before the 80s, or actually in the early 80s and the 70s. We had catastrophic insurance. When we went to the doctor's office, we paid there, and that was it. There was no if somebody was a ne'er-do-well or poor or poverty-stricken or whatever, that something beyond their control,
right,
they were always taken care of.
Right, because doctors weren't charged income tax. Many people forget about this. Doctors were exempt from income tax, and the other thing is, they could write off charitable work against the taxes they did have to pay. And so it was a great deal to be a doctor. The people would get their care. I mean, we didn't have sick people just dying en masse in the 1980s, folks. We didn't. I mean, unless there's some, secret black plague that was erased from the history books, it didn't happen. And so this idea that you've got to, just have everything run by insurance companies and have insurance companies be the arbiter of pricing, it's just a mess. It's an absolute mess.
You know where it started? It started when companies and the economy started to really boom in the Reagan era, and they were trying to be really competitive with attracting new potential talent to their company. And so what they would attract them with are vacation bonuses, healthcare, and so they kept on upping the ante with the healthcare, and then they started developing these very elaborate plans. And then of course, the government starts getting involved, and because it started to become really, really big business, just the healthcare packages.
Right.
And I'm not sure exactly where all of this started to just sort of go hyperbolic, but that's I think what the actual beginning of it was, the spark, the catalyst.
Right.
When companies were trying to attract people and just putting out these big benefit packages.
Right. Instead of just paying you more cash, they've got to give you health care for you and your dog and your family and, just everybody and their brother. But, even with the $32.6 trillion price tag, I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez keeps going back to this whole, thing where she says, we're a rich country. We can pay for this. No, we can't. We are a rich country. We're not that rich, and we wouldn't be that rich for long if we did pay for it. So I don't know where she comes up with this kind of garbage. It's just fed to her through, the talking points mill. But campus reform.
She was kind of a kept child, I mean,
right.
She came from a very wealthy family.
Right.
The girl from the Bronx.
She's very sheltered. She's not the girl from the Bronx. She grew up in a very wealthy neighborhood. It's in the neighborhood of type, Beverly Hills type area. And she's a very sheltered, rich girl, and as far as she's concerned, who cares?
I think it was it's the 8th richest neighborhood or county in the country.
Yes, that's where it ranks. Some have it at 7, some have it at 8. But the Democrats are apparently a big fan because campus reform went out and they surveyed in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district in the 14th district of New York, and the reactions they got are just hysterical. And this isn't really Jesse Waters type stuff. They're just letting the people say what they want to say. It's not overly clipped. They weren't looking for, absolutely moronic people and then clipping it all up to make them look stupid. No, they were just asking them what they think about this, and here's what they had to say.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, just elected, 28 years old, self-proclaimed Democratic Socialist, which has a lot of people talking. What are your views on her so far?
I've heard only positive things.
We love her.
Yeah, we do love her. I voted for her because I'm from Queens.
It was great, and it's a breath of fresh air, and I hope it follows through into November.
I like her spirit.
You voted for her because you're from Queens and she's from the Bronx, right? Oops.
And that she's very different.
People tend to freak out when they hear the word socialism applied to anything.
And why do you think that is?
I think there's this old way of thinking about it.
What do you think?
Oh yeah, it's just this old way of thinking about it. They all have that voice. I can't get over it. Every liberal guy has that robotic Mark Zuckerberg voice. It's just really weird.
The government should be subsidizing. So her platform includes free healthcare, college tuition, minimum living wage, housing as a human right. Are those things that you think the government should be providing for people?
Absolutely.
Are those things that you would support?
Yes, it is.
Are those all things that you would support the government subsidizing?
100%.
Or I feel like everyone should have free education and healthcare.
How are we going to pay for those?
Oh God. I mean,
us,
I guess.
Yeah. Who, in your mind, should pay for all of the free things?
All of the free things? Well, some of it should come from taxes, but the government should pay for it.
The government should pay for it. Only some of it should come from taxes. Wait a second.
But the government is funded by taxes.
Yeah.
I don't know where the money would come from, but they can figure it out.
Okay.
They can figure it out. Yeah, whatever.
More taxes on the rich people.
Yeah, for sure, man. They can afford it.
Tax corporations, let's tax the 1% and find a way to support a living wage.
The people with a good idea and a good reason to spend their tax money wouldn't mind actually paying more taxes.
There are so many of these countries out there that are employing a lot more socialism in their government and into their politics, and they're doing really well.
If they're doing so well, why don't these people all move there?
Like the Republic of Congo or Ethiopia or East Germany, which doesn't exist anymore. None of these do.
Venezuela.
Hungary, North Korea, Mongolia.
This is
Somalia. How about that?
It's working out really well. I mean, hell, even the Prime Minister of Italy today, which is where Trump made that where he answered that Iran question, he was with the Prime Minister of Italy. He said he's envious of U.S. economic growth. He can't figure out where it's coming from. Well, we're not socialists. Let's start there.
Is Venezuela doing that?
Ooh, I don't know too much about Venezuela, honey. I think they need to... I mean, are they still communist right now?
So they're technically socialist.
Okay.
Look at other countries. It works. Like other countries, you pay higher taxes, but your government takes care of you.
So why don't you move there?
So when you see the social system failing in Venezuela, does that concern you?
I mean...
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously.
My family's Cuban, and I've seen the downfall of extreme leftism. But also, I see how it, boosts the community, and, it has its up and downs, and I think we can...
Hey, really boosts the community. That's why your parents got on a tin boat and schlepped across the ocean, risking drowning you and everyone else on the boat, because it just really boosts the community.
The other big lie is that a lot of these people think that socialism is designed to lift up the little people, when in fact... Socialism is designed to explicitly exploit the little people.
Yeah, they get crushed. They're the ones that work for free in the factory. It's not the rich people.
Definitely learn from history on that terms.
Okay.
Our country needs change, and if it has to be on the opposite side,
on the extreme polar opposite side, maybe it's what we need.
Privatized healthcare is a huge issue. And
why do we need change?
Government.
What's going so poorly? What are these people complaining about?
Where's the problem?
All these kids have they have all got $1,000
There are more jobs than people to fill them.
They've got $1,000 supercomputer in their pocket, every one of these kids, and they're bitching and moaning endlessly.
Yeah, I don't get it. Where's the problem?
I don't know.
That would be, when there aren't...
Do you think the government would run it more efficiently?
In a perfect world, sure.
I'm liberal. I don't know exactly where I'd stand, but I know democratic socialist is better than conservative. It's just better than.
Let me translate
it's the better
that.
option.
I'm liberal and I'm a total friggin' idiot.
I think that actually was Ocasio-Cortez talking. It sounds just like her.
What way?
When I think of it, I just think of more open-minded people that aren't as economically conserved.
Actually, that's better vocabulary than Ocasio-Cortez uses. I stand corrected. I mean, economically conserved, you'd never hear something like that out of her mouth. Wow. Wow. Well, the good news is, Ernie, she is a woman of the people, Ocasio-Cortez, and she has pledged, public pledge, not to take any money from corporate PACs. There's just one problem, Ernie. Candidates are not allowed to take money from any PACs by law. You're not even allowed to talk to the PACs. So her pledge seems to be a little bit ill-conceived at best.
That's because she doesn't understand the rules.
Right. Or what are we watching here? It's just like we're watching...
What do you think the chances are that she actually knew that was one part of the rules?
None of these people sounded like they had IQs over 80. None of these people sounded like they were very happy and productive. What we're watching is the Democrats sucker a whole section of society into this sort of nihilistic, defeatist, can't do, depressed attitude where, the only solution is bigger government, the only solution is universal everything, and the only solution is vote Democrat. It's a very, very nasty, systematic process that they're engaging in. And I've noticed it. You don't see any of these kids who are really very smart. All the smart kids are conservatives. Or you get these kids that are maybe they've got high IQ, but they're extremely sheltered. It's really sad. It's really sad. But this morning on MSNBC, they had a different prophecy about what is to come.
Was Mika and Joe back?
They were. And Joe Barnacle, Big Joe, was back as well.
Do you know that Joe Barnacle's from Boston?
Yeah, he strikes me. He's got a little Boston accent.
I'm sorry, Mike Barnacle.
Is it Mike or Joe?
Yeah,
I forget. Mike. That's right. It is Mike. Mike Barnacle. You're right. I'm getting Joes and Mikes and who knows? They're all the same to me. But here's what Mike Barnacle had to say about what's coming next.
If Trump has got the message he can get away with anything, we're on the road to Norm Ornstein's nightmare. He's, of course, the AEI political expert. His nightmare is that Trump fires Mueller, pardons himself and everybody else, sends his followers into the streets, and after the inevitable bloodshed, declares martial law. Now, you say, well, that can't happen. Well, who would have thought that the president could openly collude, not only openly collude, openly canoodle with the strong and powerful Kremlin leader and would receive 79% response from Republicans.
What? Okay, so he's going to fire Mueller, pardon everyone, including himself, send out a tweet that says, go into the streets and kill liberals, and then he's going to declare martial law. Okay, that's their prediction. Well, where does this stuff come from? Where are they seeing all of this happening? Because I haven't heard anything from Trump that sounds...
Well, that's how they think. Look at some of these groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter. I mean, that's what they're all about.
That sounds like something that Obama would do. That sounds like something that Obama would do. I mean, Obama's the one that set up FEMA camps all across our country with plastic coffins. You can watch the documentary. It's real.
And actually put the children in cages.
But this is this constant tendency to project. They whatever they're doing, you can always know what the Democrats are up to very simply. Just look what they're accusing the other side of. And if you look at that, you'll always know what they're up to. Because colluding with
so
Russia.
They're afraid of Trump actually declaring martial law. So we know now that is exactly what their plan is if they get into office. They're going to impeach him. There's going to be riots, and they're going to declare martial law.
Yes, that's the plan. that is what they've got going. We've seen this shape up.
There'll be a complete breakdown of society. I mean, this is what Obama was working towards in the beginning, I think, to completely decimate the United States, make it as weak as possible so that there was civil unrest, bring out the military.
Yep.
Oh, no, not bring out the military. Bring in NATO.
Right, NATO and UN blue helmets. And it's not us, confabulating this or speculating this. This is just in their own white papers, in their own documents, in their own speeches in front of the Atlantic Council, you name it. I mean, Hillary Clinton would say this to Goldman Sachs. The transcripts are out. So this is their plan. Trump has never suggested anything like this, never even given the slightest hint that something like that might be on his mind. But in their eyes, that's what they're planning, so they've got to move it off on Trump and accuse him of being the one who's got to do this. I don't even understand how this is particularly effective. I don't know why they keep doing this, because it always comes back to bite them. People, if they hadn't have been so aggressive in starting up Mueller, Spygate wouldn't be a thing. Obama wouldn't be in jeopardy of going to jail for spying on Trump. So it always seems to come back and bite them. That's why that's the part I don't get. When they start talking about things like this.
Well, they weren't expecting to get caught. That's the whole deal.
Right. But I just don't understand the projection from a political standpoint, where they get traction by accusing other people of doing precisely what they're doing. That to me is a little bit perplexing. But there must be some thinking behind it. At least it avoids them from getting caught, assuming there's some sort of...
Yeah, I don't know. Is that tactic in Rules for Radicals? I'll have to look that up.
I'll have to go check. But it probably is. If the Democrats of today are implementing it, it's probably right out of Saul Alinsky's playbook. Of course, Obama's good friend, Bill Ayers, leftist terrorist, good friends with Obama. I mean, they used to hang out together. All the pictures have come out. His brother said so on this podcast, as a matter of fact. So, that's what they keep doing, and continue to push and continue to press. It's sad. It's really quite out of control. But Ernie, I read a story which was just inexplicable to me. But we've been talking about how this would be coming very soon. How people would say, look, I'm not eligible for this or that because I'm actually a different gender, or I am eligible for this or that because I changed my gender. This is what we've been warning about, sort of, postulating would start taking place. And I read today, it's from the Daily Mail, Canadian driver changes his gender to female on paper to get a cheaper car insurance rate. A 24-year-old man from Alberta, Canada, changed his gender on his birth certificate and driver's license to save $1,100 on his car insurance. He was quoted $45.17 a year, and ultimately he had a really horrible driving record, speeding tickets, crash, you name it. He changed himself.
So are we to infer that women are better drivers than men? That's why their rates are lower?
I don't know. I think women are probably worse drivers than men. I'm not sure where that comes from. Women are certainly worse drivers than men on average.
Well, look, I'm not going to make any judgments.
No, I just think about it.
I try not to, but
no. I mean, how many women are Formula One race car drivers? They're not as good at driving. It's a fact. I don't mean to be politically incorrect here.
Well, I think it has more to do with the total number of miles they may drive compared to men. Right?
Could be commuting and they're staying home versus commuting.
Yeah, so maybe that's why their rates are lower.
Could be.
So you could change. So you can change your gender. You identify as a woman. You get $1,100.
That's right. Male drivers.
How often can you do this change? What if there is another advantage for going back to man? Can you go back and forth, back and forth?
Well, this guy had, I'm not sure. He got a letter from his doctor saying he wanted to identify himself as a woman, and that was all he needed.
I want to declare myself trans-metronome.
Trans-metronome. Well, that's the thing. You can identify as whatever gender you want, even genders that don't exist.
Sometimes I'm on the left, sometimes I'm on the right.
Well, they have... You've heard of gender fluid, right? You've heard of this, where you switch throughout the day. It's 2 p.m. Woo! Now I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Back and forth. Now I'm a man. No, folks, that's just
when the insurance bill comes, I'm a woman.
That's just mental illness. That's all that is. I mean, if you really believe it, most of the time this is an attention ploy. I think. I mean, what more could this be? Really? Did he do all this for $1,100, or did he do this to get attention? It's hard to say.
Now, there used to be, insurance agents used to, I guess, take a sample size and go out and investigate. I wonder if they're doing that now. What happens if they go out and investigate and say, hey, he's not a woman?
Yeah.
There's probably a pending lawsuit there. Like that could be hate speech.
Well, they'd get sued through the roof, I'm sure, if they denied this guy. It would be an outrage in Canada. Justin Trudeau would probably personally go down and order them to allow him to declare himself a woman, even though he is not a woman. There's no doubt about that. He's got Y chromosomes. He's got.
Have you ever
male
noticed that Justin
features.
Trudeau, when he sits down, he's the only world leader I've ever seen that always has his knees knocked, and always crosses his legs.
Yeah, Obama would do that a little bit, but you're right. Trudeau always does it. Always. Always. 100% of the time.
So effeminate.
It is. But that's the cool thing. If you're a cool liberal, you've got to do these kind of feminine things. You've got to talk in a high-pitched voice that's artificial.
You know
clearly.
what? If you brought Trump and Trudeau back to when they were children at that time and just sort of put them in the same spot, Trudeau's the kind of guy that Trump probably would have gone and just punched him in the face.
Yeah. I think so.
I hate to say that. That's what I'm thinking.
Right. I mean, Trudeau. Trudeau's father was the prime minister, so there would be some, there'd be some hell to pay afterwards. But it's remarkable. I don't understand this. It's this. The left. I went into a restaurant today, Ernie, Tender Greens, and I'm in a very right-wing area, even though it's in California. This is a bastion, one of the few areas that's quite right-wing. But I guess this restaurant is supposed to be left-wing. And
with a name like Tender Greens, what else could it be?
Yeah, I never noticed that at other locations, but and the first thing I noticed was it was cashless. I couldn't pay with cash. That's what they want to move us onto. So it's a good, conditioning exercise if we can get it in. What difference why does it matter to them about cash? Every other restaurant in that place takes cash.
No, you'd want to make it as easy as possible for your patrons to pay however they can.
Yeah, I almost walked out of there that way because they said, we're cashless. We're a cashless society here. And then I just look around me.
No, I've seen on Martha's Vineyard, when I go there, they have some restaurants that are cash only.
Right. I can see that.
So, you go in there and you're ready to pay and they say, sorry, we only take cash. And you have to run across the street to the ATM.
Right. I've seen some of that. But it's just very strange. And I look around and it's a whole thing. It's a whole culture now. The left is. They dress really bizarrely. They cross-dress just for fun in many cases. Women looking like men looking like women, dressed very strangely. They had their kids cross-dressed. It was just very bizarre. And it's a culture now. It's a subculture of being, not just untraditional, but just being a little bit on the wild side, being a little bit deviant, being a little bit, 1969 kind of hippie-ish. It's a whole thing, but it's kind of all blended together.
Not really. Back then, it was more about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And, there were a lot of deviants. And they were a lot of the guys back then, they were real guys, even though they were in that movement.
Right,
This is the pussification of everyone.
And in the case of women, the masculinization, but then through that pussification, because they end up being completely ineffective in life. It's a very strange thing, and I just keep observing it, and it seems to be getting worse and worse. These guys those guys in that campus reform clip were speaking in a higher pitched voice than kids talking, than little boys would be speaking in. That's how I know it's contrived. That's how I know it's artificial, because children don't speak in that high a voice. 7-year-old boys, 6-year-old boys don't speak in that kind of voice. It's just an interesting thing, something we're going to have to keep tracking and looking around for, because it's something that not a lot of people are willing to talk about because they're afraid they're going to offend people, I guess. I don't know why. But hate speech, get put on a list. Like the Southern
You have to remember, in Canada, they don't have a First Amendment.
Right. Same in the UK. Same in Germany. That's why they toss you in jail in Germany if you send out a tweet that says Islam is not compatible with Germany. First time you get a $2,000 fine. Second offense, you go to jail. 6 months. So it's really, really out of control. But look at that, Ernie. We're already at 47 minutes. It's been a hell of a show, I must say. Late as we may be tonight, it's been a good show. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody back here on Thursday. We've got this tremendous new sponsor. I'm testing the product, and I think tomorrow I'm going to do a Periscope with it, and we're going to give people a special coupon code for the podcast. So stay tuned for that, everybody. It's going to be you got to see this thing. It's a box that allows everything to play. I've tested this thing out a little bit, Ernie. Every movie, every TV show.
No kidding.
Everywhere in the world. I can watch Ugandan television. Then I can go Bing, and it has a list of every single movie ever made. I can click HD, 4K, done. It's just remarkable, and it works like a charm. It just works like a charm.
You know how much I could save on my cable bill?
Oh, you're gonna save so much money. I mean, Ernie, I'm not joking around. You name it, cable television, live, boom, on the TV. You want to watch the fishing channel? Boom, on. It's just unbelievable, and we're going to save people a lot of money. And we're even going to save people a lot of money on the box itself, because we're just now, as we speak, getting the coupon code set up. It's going to give people deep discounts on the product, so you got to stay tuned for that. I think tomorrow I'm going to show the thing a little bit on Periscope, just so people can get a visual sense for it, and then we'll start blowing it out next podcast. I got to get one out to you still. I think the guy who makes these was just the guy who runs the company, CEO of the company, was just talking to me about it. So I was on the phone with a client, had to let him go, but it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Everybody's got to stay tuned for that. But folks, make sure to subscribe, support the podcast at thewashingtonreporter.com. Ernie, of course, at Trader of Futures on Twitter and everywhere else, Trader of Futures.
Which has been shadow banned, by the way.
Which has been shadow banned. I mean, they've been shadow banning me on and off. It seems like more times than not I'm shadow banned.
I went from an average of 120,000 impressions a day down to 2,000.
Wow.
That's just insane.
Wow. Yeah, we've seen it. And then when you search Ernie Veritimos in the search bar, you don't come up. It'll be 5 fake profiles. Or you do that with me, same thing. Or with Laura Loomer, who does 2 Live Jew, same thing. So it's Twitter is just unabashed about it. But I like the way Matt Gaetz is attacking it. He's saying, hey, you shadow ban conservatives. That's an in-kind corporate campaign contribution to Democrats.
I like that.
Yeah. So he's filing an FEC complaint. That's
a class action suit waiting to happen.
Yeah. It's gonna be great.
That could be billions.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's gonna be huge, I think. So I think that's the way to attack it. Not on First Amendment grounds, because I think, they have a good claim that they're a private website and,
sure,
they're a private domain, just like we could presumably ban people from our website, ban their IP address at least. They can do the same. But on the FEC grounds, I think it's interesting, because and they were doing it to candidates, not just to, people like us. They were doing it to Republican candidates, where they would tweet, usually they're getting 1,000 retweets, 3,000 retweets on every tweet. And instead, they're getting 3, 5, 9, 2, 0, 11. It's obvious shadow banning. But anyway, we'll be back on Thursday. We'll have the cool product to show off to everybody. In the meantime, keep your eyes out for fake news. Keep your eyes out for leftist violence. Those are the things you got to be worried about in this day and age. And enjoy the Trump economy, because the economy's booming. Everything's going well in the country, and you got to grow grass while the sun shines. So we'll be back next time, and until then, have a great week.